100 boats and 1,000 sailors fight for victory in one of the world's toughest yacht races.
It's supposed to be a test to the male ego and all that type of thing.
But polar winds trigger one of the deadliest storms of the century.
The wind, the waves, the currents came together and produced a perfect storm.
Wild weather hits the Sydney-Hobart fleet.
There are conditions at sea that men and boats simply cannot withstand, and that's where we ended up.
What started as a battle for glory quickly turns into a race for survival. In a violent storm, yachtsman Peter Meikle holds his friend's life in his hands.
I let him go.
American John Campbell is now stranded 120 kilometers from land. If he's not rescued soon, he'll die.
Guns gone and they're away.
December 26th, 1998. It's the day after Christmas, and 115 yachts jostle for position at the start of Australia's premier ocean race from Sydney to Hobart. The boats fight for every inch of water, every breath of wind, to gain an early advantage. They streak across the world's largest natural harbour, pursued by a flotilla of press boats and well-wishers.
Spectacular start here as they carve their way towards Sydney Head.
All classes of yacht compete, from professionally crewed 24-metre-long racers to simple 12-metre boats manned by amateurs. They race 1,066 kilometres down the east coast of Australia, across the Tasman Sea to Hobart, the capital of Tasmania. The yachts are brutally exposed to one of the roughest and most treacherous waters on the planet, the Southern Ocean. The competition takes an average of 3 days to complete, and sailors call it hell on high water.
It's quite something to achieve that you've actually raced in a Sydney-Hobart race.
Helicopter pilot Gary Ticehurst is filming the event for the Australian television network ABC. It's Gary's 16th year covering the race.
So it's always interesting each year to see what's been pitted against the elements.
Thousands upon thousands of spectators lining every headland. This is the greatest ocean race in the world.
Sailing out of Sydney Harbour with all that commotion and the helicopters, it's really one of the most thrilling experiences of my life.
American John Campbell is part of a 10-man team on board the yacht Kingara.
His crew had worked together for years. I was kind of the outsider, the Yank, as they like to call it. But it was fun. He's a good group of guys.
Crewing alongside John is Australian Peter Meikle. They've known each other for 7 years. This is their third attempt to get to Hobart.
You get 10 guys and put them on a boat, and there's a lot of stories, a lot of laughing. It's a bit smelly, but it's an adventure.
Mike Marshman from Adelaide is crewing on board rival yacht Stand Aside. Marshman, like most Australians, takes his sport seriously.
You've got to get wet, got to get hurt, got to get hungry. It makes the beer taste better at the other end when you get there.
Mike epitomizes the world of competitive sailing. He lives for the adrenaline buzz and is prepared to take anything the race can throw at him.
It's just a fantastic thing to do. Adrenaline rush at the start, adrenaline rush at the finish, and a bit of pain in the middle.
The yachts tack out of Sydney Harbour into the Pacific Ocean. They pick up a 20 knot northeasterly, the ideal wind to blow them south to Hobart.
We're past the sea mark now, with spinnakers are set, and we are now heading south. This is the run.
A powerful sea current is flowing in the same direction.
It was a great start to the race. It was as good as it gets. I don't think we'd had a faster trip down that first part.
This could be a record year. They unfurl vast downwind sails called spinnakers. And immediately the bigger yachts, like the American-owned Sayonara, start to pull ahead. 10 kilometers away, at the Bureau of Meteorology in Sydney, official race forecaster Ken Batt studies the updated weather charts. A chill creeps down his spine. A storm is developing in the Tasman Sea.
When I saw those conditions being forecast, it didn't sort of sit very well with me.
Cold and warm fronts are forming a complex low-pressure system. It's compounded by high-altitude polar winds circling the Antarctic, moving unusually far north, and colliding with warm air from the opposite direction. This front of cold air is sucking the warm air out of the system, creating a rapid drop in pressure. High-speed winds and vast waves now look likely.
The excitement, exhilaration quickly vanished and was replaced by, well, I suppose in a way, fear.
The last time Ken saw weather like this was in 1993, when gale force winds battered the sailors for 4 days. 66 boats abandoned the competition, and for the first time in the race's history, 2 yachts were destroyed. Ken and his team fear that if the weather deteriorates further, this year could be worse. At 2:14 p.m, he issues a priority storm warning to the fleet. It forecasts that 26 hours into the race, the yachts will encounter wind speeds of up to 55 knots, 102 kilometers per hour. It's classified as a Force 10 storm.
Expanded search and rescue.
Marine broadcast and rescue services are put on alert.
Sydney Hobart competitors have begun preparing for the worst. The fierce southerly expected to hit the fleet on their first night at sea.
The warning is relayed via radio to the yachts. But the sailors regard the message as a challenge rather than an order. Not one of the 115 boats turns back. The yachtsmen and women are now sailing into what could be the most violent ocean storm in Australian history. By now, the adrenaline is pumping. Conditions are perfect. The pace is fierce. Leading the field is the bookies' favourite, Sayonara. The 24-metre yacht battles with the Australian boat, Brindabella.
Brindabella's right up there and levelled.
Mike Marshman and 11 crewmates on board Stand Aside chase the leaders. They are pushing the boat as hard as they can. Stand Aside is a lightweight fiberglass racer. She weighs just 5.5 tons. The yacht's clean lines, shallow hull and tall rig are designed to give her a lighter and faster ride. But the team is so determined to win its class, they've removed lead stabilizers from her keel for increased speed. Stand Aside can now surf the water at 37 kilometers per hour.
We broke all the speed records on Stand Aside, so the atmosphere of all the crew on board was fantastic.
Kingara is in the middle of the same pack. and sailing on her limit.